Oh yeah!
Hello and welcome to this edition of Fish Stripes Live. We are here tonight to preview the series between the Miami Marlins and division rival the Philadelphia Phillies. As usual, here are the usual suspects joining me tonight for this stream. We have Eli Sussman, Isaac Azout, Kevin Barral making his return, Anna McBonney, Alex Carver, and a recurring guest. He is one of our favorites, Alex Carr. Alex, it is great to have you on.
And it's great to be back, gentlemen. Very glad to be here as always. Thanks for having me.
Before I start, I have a very fun stat I wanted to point out here. Since your last show, since last time on stream, it was right before July 15th. Here are the records between the Marlins and the Phillies. Phillies 27-18 since that show.
Oh Lord.
The Marlins 12-33.
12-33.
Give it up for the Marlins, everybody. All right.
All right, I think he's off the show, guys.
July 15th game before that series, Miami's 12-33.
I think it's time to get Alex Carr off the show.
21 games.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
It's time to get Alex Carr off the show, guys.
Yeah, I think
Phillies have
maybe
more than doubled the Marlins wins.
Well, you know what's funny is I was probably feeling just as optimistic about the Marlins as you guys were last time we did a show. I was on the train. They were on some kind of win streak or something of the sort, and Phillies were not playing well at the time. Well, I guess they were playing well, but it was before they had good Miami Marlins vibes, which I think came during that series. But you know, it's always intimidating to face the Marlins, to see the Marlins on the schedule, and I think maybe a little less so this time around, even though the Phillies are not playing their best baseball right now. But I don't know. Maybe it's just Miguel Rojas blocking everyone on Twitter. Maybe it's just am I allowed to say that? Should I? I don't know. Maybe it's just that. Maybe it's, I don't know. But something about the Marlins feels a little less scary this time around. And there's some solace that I think Phillies fans can take in that going into this series. And of course, now that I say that, my prediction is still going to be that the Phillies lose this series because why not? But we'll see.
Early prediction.
Yeah, and looking back on their records, they were relatively close. Miami at that time was 43-45, and the Phillies were 46-43.
Wow, they were so much closer than I thought.
Yeah,
wow.
It is
amazing how things can change.
Yep.
Let's.
For people that aren't aware, this is what I noticed earlier today. For the full history, Miggy Rowe originally had us blocked from 2018 through most of 2019. And then we were on good terms for like 2.5 years. And I'm not sure exactly what set him over, but
Kevin handed him the microphone. That's what happened.
Yeah. He still deals with us professionally in the clubhouse during those situations, but on Twitter, he's just not pleased with the commentary, I suppose, or the discourse that happens over there. So, Miggy, if you're watching this, I know he's not watching this. Kevin, if you're watching this, nothing personal with you. We still value what you've contributed to this organization through the years.
Kevin, next time you're in the locker room, just ask him, hey, so how about that block on Twitter, bro? Just
all right, next topic.
He's so online. I think it's very interesting, and I think it would lend itself to it would lend itself well to a fan base that or where he's playing well. But anyway, we can pass it. It's fine.
I just want to talk about. We can go to the Phillies. They're right in the middle of the wild card hunt, second in the wild card race. Alex, are the Phillies? Do you have them as a lock to make the playoffs? Are you timid for them making it in? What's your analysis on the Phillies' playoff hopes?
I'm as optimistic on the Phillies as I am pessimistic on the Padres and Brewers. So take that as you will, but the Brewers just can't seem to like capitalize on a Phillies loss. It just never happens. And I'll knock on wood for the Phillies there, but the Brewers are just not playing great baseball either. Neither are the Padres. It's a very much a limp to the finish, but I also think that the Phillies, when healthy, were playing incredibly well. And obviously now they're down, probably 2 starting pitchers, seeing as how, Zach Eflin has been hurt for a while. Zach Wheeler is on the injured list right now, whether that's a phantom IL stint or whatever. It sure doesn't seem that way of late. But he's still down. Ranger Suarez can't seem to make it out of the 4th inning right now, and he pitches beautifully up to the 4th inning, and then something changes. So maybe there's an IL stint coming there. Who knows? But they're really wearing thin right now with starting pitching and with outfield depth. They just had to put Nick Castellanos on the IL with an oblique strain. Apparently a mild one, but even then, those injuries can be really troublesome. So it's going to be really interesting. This series in particular is really going to be a nice litmus test for them, especially now that they're kind of banged up. But they've been dealing with injuries all season, right? Bryce Harper has been hurt since May. He went on the IL in June, but he's been hurt for a while. He's been playing hurt for quite some time. They've dealt with injuries to their rotation for most of the year. They've dealt with injuries to the bullpen now. Sir Anthony Dominguez, Corey Knebel out for the season. I should clarify, Sir Anthony Dominguez is on his way back, thankfully. But they've just been bit by the injury bug all year. It's just happened all year. Gene Segura out for a long span of time. So they've dealt with it. Now they have to once again prove their mettle, right? They have to prove that they are different and kick this September collapse narrative out the window. And this series is going to be a big part of that. But yeah, I still think that they are a lock for the playoffs. Primarily just because the other teams don't seem to want it that badly either at this point.
Yeah, and just speaking of teams just wanting it badly, Marlins definitely if they're a contention for something. It's the Cy Young race, and Phillies also have a pitcher who can definitely knock on the door and could, who knows, maybe something happening. Just Alex, what is your consensus in the Cy Young race? Because obviously Sandy on top, but it might not be as far as maybe some people want to believe. You have Urias, you have Max Fried, Zach Gallen is heating up. Just what is your take on the entire NL Cy Young race?
There is no question. There's no question. Anybody that questions it is just trying to stir some controversy. I mean, like, the people that were saying Tony Gonsolin, like, it's so stupid. You're not going to – Tony Gonsolin has had a great season. What a step forward from him. But, like, you compare the inning totals, and there's no contest. And that's what this is about, right? You don't see this kind of dominance from any other pitcher. Sure, Tony Gonsolin goes out there and pitches some great games, but he's not dominating, right? He's not like – he is not – you don't go into a Tony Gonsolin start and say, oh, well, here we go. It's Tony Gonsolin. We're gonna lose here. No, you go into a Sandy Alcantara start and you say, oh, well, chalk that one up as a loss, right? Like, that's how it goes. And that's the guy that you vote for Cy Young, not the guy that, he's having a great year, but he's not getting as far into games. Not the guy that, he's leading a good pitching staff for a very winning team in the Atlanta Braves. Not a guy that, has, sure, a really long scoreless streak going, but was hurt most of the year. Like, no, it's clear cut. Sandy Alcantara could go out, on what day is he pitching? Friday? And Thursday. He could go out on Thursday and absolutely stink up the place, and still he would be, the default Cy Young winner, in my eyes, at least. And anybody that doesn't believe that is kidding themselves.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Adam? Go ahead.
So, so you guys have said the exact same stuff about 3-4 weeks ago, and at that time there was really no consensus. And the only reason why I was saying, hey, it's like you can't just call it now, because we've got a freaking month and a half still left in the race. And like you guys have just mentioned, like sabermetrically, Sandy is my pick. Like at the very top, like, yes, like if you average all these wars, but like I've also mentioned as well, aside from the FIP argument, you've got the idea Like you've got the big team bias. You've got the guys who are like Gonsolin, really like not anymore, but like Max Fried, like Aaron Nola, those guys are all up there on FIP-based WAR, and you can just average those out too, and the race is a lot closer than we all think it is.
See, that's the problem, though. FIP-based WAR isn't. There is a whole thing out there in the sabermetric community right now that Fangraphs really needs to rework their WAR system because of how highly it values FIP. Because there simply is no reason for a fielding independent stat to be the driving basis of, and what would you even call that? Like an ERA estimating stat?
Right.
I truly believe that if we are going off of, like, if you want to make the argument for the big team, if you want to make the argument for wins, if you want to make the argument for whatever, the writers that value those things are going to be valuing innings the exact same way. And when you look at Sandy Alcantara's innings in comparison to every other pitcher in baseball, not just the National League, it's baseball. And Aaron Nola the same, which, good for him. But I like Aaron Nola. I wouldn't even put him on my ballot right now. He's not even coming close. And I watch him as closely as anybody. There is no contest in my mind, especially given the lack of help that Sandy has gotten. Like, I don't think people understand how much motivation it takes to go out there and pitch a game that he pitches, knowing full well they're probably going to lose anyway.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think anybody gives any credence to that. If he had an incredible defense behind him, he'd be pitching with more confidence. An incredible offense, even more confidence. He'd be even more of a star than he is right now. Anyway, that's my rant. I'll let somebody else speak now. But truly,
so if we want to talk about the FIP, I know like when you say like, oh, you want to go in runs, because if you break it down by linear weights, runs are the most basic form of value in baseball. I get that, but my whole argument is that we need to overhaul how we're thinking about just runs in general. Even if it's the most true outcome of what happens, it's not truly indicative of who is actually pitching pitch by pitch the greatest like guy out there. It just shows what kind of happened, but it doesn't take into account the full luck factor. That's what I believe. And in my I'm abstract in that sense. I will say I probably should have qualified this the whole time for the past 3 weeks, that I'm abstract in the sense that I believe we should take luck more into account than what actually happens. But more guys really do believe in the actual factor of what happens, which is why people like to use the actual run expected value outcome and not get into the calculus of FIP-based and like what should have happened.
Well, that's what baseball is. The whole stat, everything, even like, unearned runs, it's all about what should have happened. That's the whole sport. Most of the stats are based on what should have happened, which is why, I guess I have one question for all of you guys. Do you think if Sandy was in the American League, would he be the favorite for the Cy Young?
No.
That's a good question.
Verlander, Shane.
Verlander.
Probably not. I think that's a better question. I think he's a front runner.
Yeah.
By a wide margin. Would he win the American League Cy Young as well? He'd be up there.
I want to go on a little thing that actually came up in a separate conversation I was having recently, I think with my brother about this, is about the idea that beginning next year, the scheduling changes and it's everybody plays everybody. And he was wondering whether potentially, thank you, Kevin, muting yourself.
I got you.
Yeah. So he was wondering if the way that NBA and I guess the NHL and definitely the NFL give just one major award for the league, because once everybody, there is that total immersion between the two leagues, that AL and NL don't necessarily need to be separate anymore. And, but it was something that came up to me and something that applies here, but I imagine that more awards are better, right? This is what keeps us going. This is what the entire final month of our Marlins coverage is about. Right. It's about Sandy's NL Cy Young Award race.
Right.
And if you put him in, imagine if like they blended the two leagues and they had just one Cy Young Award in which he wasn't even the front runner. Imagine like how different that would be. Imagine how much that would negatively impact like the entire fan community. So that's that was kind of a detour, but it is like in my mind, even with the change in the schedule, I do hope that they double up on those awards for exactly this type of reason, so that we can have these types of conversations regardless of where the team is going.
Imagine Goldschmidt not getting MVP because of Judge and Shohei.
Exactly.
Well, if it's Shohei, I wouldn't be pissed at, but like,
I don't disagree with that. And then it's how do you separate the World Series is the other thing. Like, how do you pick one team? Like, how is it two AL teams that are going to be the World Series teams. But then it's also like, if you do not separate it, like we just said, if you just make it one whole league, you could just pick the top 2 in every category and it would be fair. But I think the other thing is that, with now DH is present everywhere, the rules are the same for every team. Like, why are there 2 leagues? And that's a question I've asked myself. Like, why does there have to be National League and American League? And it's a good question. But like you said, us losing teams here with Miami, we have to have something to root for, right?
Yeah, but then it just becomes the Cy Young Award winner and then the Cy Young Award winner runner up, which would be like what the
right.
I don't know, the Christy Mathewson Award or something like that. Like who cares? Like that wouldn't matter. So I think that's a very good point on Eli's part. To keeping the league separate definitely makes a lot more sense to me still, because of just the sheer, non-contending teams always have that one player, right? Like one guy is still in the race for this award, like Gold Glove, Silver Glove, who cares? Like that keeps him in it, right? But
Coughlin was Rookie of the Year, like in a losing season. So same.
The Marlins were very good that season. They won 85 or 90 games. They won
very good. That's very good.
Won 85 games that year. That was like their best season.
I consider that okay.
That
coming from years of mediocrity.
That was one of the better seasons epic in the last 15 years.
That was our peak.
To answer Isaac's question, though, I still think Sandy would get a lot of consideration in the American League. Yeah. I still think, because the innings argument is so valid in his case. For Sandy to walk out of this season without some piece of hardware to his name would be a crime to the game. It would be, because this is one of the best pitching seasons we've seen in years. This is better than, those peak. I'm going to get a lot of flack for this one, but I would say it's on par with those peak DeGrom years, right? No. Like it is right there. This level of dominance, this level of, and sure, he's had some spot starts here and there where, things haven't gone his way, but there is nobody out there right now that you would feel more scared to face than Sandy Alcantara. I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. Jacob deGrom.
That's okay, man.
Arguably, man, he's Jacob deGrom. Prime deGrom we did in 2018 is probably the best pitching season we've seen since Pedro Martinez, and that's not an exaggeration at all.
You're probably right, and I think Sandy can be right up there. I think this season by Sandy Alcantara on a terrible team with just terrible everything behind him, with the level of dominance he's displayed, I think it's right. I think it's right up there.
It's just hard to compare the two because they're such different pitchers, and deGrom,
of course,
different pitchers. But I'm with you in the sense that just pure dominance all year long. Such like 8 innings. What is it, like 10 times already this year? I think that's the part where you can compare and just say, holy shit, the bullpen knows they have the night off when he's on the mound.
Yep.
And you can't really say that about many other pitchers.
You can't say that about any other pitchers.
Nope, not Corbin Burns, not Shane.
Not Max Scherzer, not anybody.
Burns is not innings pitched. Fried is not innings pitched.
It's crazy.
Not Justin Verlander, not Max Fried, not anybody. No. Max Fried averages 6 innings a start. Like you cannot compare him to anybody right now. There is nobody like him in baseball, including Jacob deGrom. Because guess what? deGrom would be remarkable, incredible. He's going to get a ridiculous contract this offseason, but he can't stay healthy. He cannot stay healthy, and it's because his level of dominance, it's not consistent. Sandy Alcantara's, it's consistent. It's been in the mirror for ages now, and it's finally showing on paper.
And this is the third consecutive full season.
Is there any amongst any of us that he tops 200 strikeouts again? Is there any doubt that he needs 30? He's at what, 170? He needs 30 more. Is there any doubt that he's going to get 30 more?
He'll
get 30 more on Thursday night.
And like I've told you guys this before, he will be the first Marlins pitcher in franchise history to have back-to-back seasons with 200 plus strikeouts.
Yeah, and this is the third consecutive full season where he's had at least 195 innings pitched. Just shows you that, holy shit. I think he almost had it in 2019. I think he felt like 197. But that's third consecutive full season of 195 innings. It's remarkable. And I remember we called him unproven in the offseason, Alex.
Hey.
That was my favorite unfiltered quote.
That was taken out of context. I would like to, and honestly, to this point, like, I am so happy that quote can be completely, dogged on, because all I wanted from him was to prove that, he was that guy, right? Like, it's been in the expected stats for years, and here we are, and I'm thrilled about it because he is just the easiest guy to root for, and he is so talented. It's unbelievable. I'm very, like, I truly, one of my favorite things back in the day was just watching every Jose Fernandez start. I loved that guy to death. Like, that was when I was in middle school, high school, and I just absolutely was locked on to that guy. And that's how I feel watching Sandy Alcantara pitch. I truly do. And I cover the Phillies, but everybody knows this on Fish Stripes. I love the Marlins. I love watching this team, and Sandy is just a treat to watch every single night. So very, very happy that he's taken that step.
Well, that should be the new quote. That should be the new quote. I love watching the Marlins.
Not only
We're gonna get t-shirts.
Diehard Phillies fan.
Not only is it a credit to the Marlins for bringing the most out of Sandy because their pitching development is great, but it's a credit to the St. Louis Cardinals, and it really is. And yes, the Marlins killed them in that trade, but the St. Louis Cardinals are a fantastic pitching development system that just continues to pump out pitchers. They have Liberator now. Another guy they have right now in the Florida State League that is going to be very good is a guy named Tink Hence. He will be a very, very good pitcher. So that is another organization that just continues to pump out great pitching. So, the Marlins fleeced him in a trade, and they got Sandy. But, man, he could easily be on the Cardinals right now and doing the same great things. So, credit to the Cardinals.
Alex, to get in just on you, talking about, like, the Cardinals, like with Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen, that's their MO. That's the kind of pitcher they develop. It's that control, like elite command control guy, not the super like strikeout, like major strikeout pitcher, but it's the exact kind of like mold that you see that's happening in Miami with Pablo Lopez, Luzardo just from the left side. Those a slider. It's that kind of like, it's very, very unique, and it's not really my mold of pitching, but hey, it works. And Sandy is in the Cy Young race, and you can't argue with the results that he's having. So I'm
gonna make a very bold Cardinals prediction on this Miami Marlins podcast. I think as soon as Adam Wainwright leaves that organization, unless they bring him back as like a special assistant, anything like that, I think pitching development takes a huge hit. I think Adam Wainwright is the biggest piece of pitching tutelage they have in St. Louis. And if you look, every single one of their starters has that big loopy curveball. Every single one. And it's the Wainwright curveball. Every single one of them. Every single one that comes up. Every single one that, and maybe he's taught it to somebody in the development team and they're just teaching it to everybody. But I don't know. I think he's a huge part of why their pitching is. I think he's a huge part of Miles Michaelis's step forward, personally. But maybe I'm wrong. But I think it's funny how they all have that big loopy curveball in a day and age where cutters, sliders are like taking the world by storm. I think it's really interesting that every Cardinals pitcher just keeps throwing 75-mile-an-hour loopers every single start.
Alex, I'm so scared of that mold, to be honest with you. Like, I've talked about it with these other guys. Like, we like the guys who can paint everywhere and they can put it exactly where they want. But, like, for me, I'd rather take the guaranteed swing and miss than the ball that's going to be put in play for a grounder and have you to rely on your defense, just kind of like how these high ground ball guys are. I love, I'll take a guy like Edward Cabrera in his mold and, like, an Eddie and a Yuri Perez guy where, he's going to get your 3 or 4 walks per 9 potentially, but he's going to get a guaranteed, like, whiff almost like every single time there's a guy at the plate, or he's going to get 10 strikeouts per 9 eventually. And, the more he's able to locate his secondary, just like we've seen Eddie being able to do in the past few years, I think it's going to be something fruitful to watch. So for me, that's something I would like to see going forward from them.
It's the whole stuff command argument, right? That's the whole thing. Anyway, we'll move on. Let's move on.
Because we're on the topic of pitching, I do want to ask Alex about this particular individual, and it's a prospect, but I'm going to talk about it anyways because we were talking about it before. I covered this man in high school. He pitched at Christian Academy, and he was already up to 96 as a sophomore. So I want to ask Alex, Andrew Painter, and how good this guy is. Fort Lauderdale, Florida native. He's from Broward County. Pitched to Calvary, like I just said, and he was so good there. And the Phillies get him in their first round. So this is the Phillies version. For those of you guys that are listening or watching that don't know, this is the Phillies version, of Yuri Perez. So Alex, talk to us about Andrew Painter. Let us know.
Oh, was this ready, or was this a prepared topic? I'm so excited. Yeah. So Andrew Painter is essentially, I think you got it exactly right, Alex. He really is the Phillies version of Yuri Perez here. I mean, dominating at every level, throwing some unbelievable stuff. I mean, it's really interesting. Keith Law, especially, not to like call anybody out here, but Keith Law was really low on Andrew Painter, coming out of the draft. And then Andrew Painter went to the complex that year and absolutely blew everybody away, putting 3 miles on his fastball, developing this absolutely ridiculous slider to go along with what was already considered a plus changeup, developed a plus slider. I mean, just unreal stuff and unreal timeline for his development. And he's kind of taken the world by storm. I mean, he is putting together the greatest minor league pitching season of any Philadelphia Philly ever. And if you've ever looked at Cole Hamels' minor league career, you'd know that's really, really something. I mean, Cole Hamels' minor league stats are out of this world. Sixto Sanchez's, a couple years in the minor league system here were unbelievable. Andrew Painter is doing better, which is terrifying. But there's a reason that he and Mick Abel were untouchable, right? I mean, they both are just absolutely climbing through the system at a rapid pace and showing some incredible stuff. And props to the Phillies organization here. I mean, they really have taken a huge step forward in terms of developing pitching prospects and developing pitching talent in general, not just at the minor league level, but at the major league level. I mean, we've seen so many guys take big steps forward this year. And, not even to mention Zach Wheeler, refinding Aaron Nola's stuff, things like that. But Painter is the real deal. I mean, he's blowing 100 past guys in the minor leagues. He's throwing, 3+ pitch shapes, plus to plus pitch shapes. And he is commanding everything really well. He's walked somewhere in the 20s amount of batters this year, I believe, and he's struck out 140. Maybe I'm making that up. I gotta get the numbers in front of me. Let me do it for you. But he is just he's absolutely carving up the minor leagues, so much so that he has, obviously he's escalated through. Yeah, so he's walked 24 batters and struck out 141. Which is just unbelievable. It's just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, he's been incredible. But it's truly, is this Cole Hamels or is this Andrew Painter? This is Andrew Painter. No, this is Andrew Painter.
2020 high 8 ball.
Yeah. So I mean, you look at this. It's unbelievable what he has been able to do, and he is just. I mean, look at those stats allowed. Guys are slugging 244 off of him. Guys are hitting 170. It's unfathomable how much he's dominated this season, and it's from level to level. He's gone from Clearwater, he's gone to high A, he's gone to double A, and he has dominated at every single level. And it's insane to watch. And I mean, it's something that Phillies fans aren't used to. So they're really getting their money's worth here with all this pitching talent coming through. And then it's Mick Abel, and then it's Griff McGarry. I mean, they are seriously considering calling up Griff McGarry in these next 2 weeks, maybe within the week. And he is going to be a big part of what they do in this latter half of the season. While he may lack some command, he's going to be a serious threat out of the bullpen because his stuff is just. I have had people text me and tell me that he has the best stuff in the minor leagues. Period. Mm-hmm. Period. End. Like just in general, which is unfathomable to me because the Phillies found that in the 5th round.
Gary's insane.
It's been really, really impressive what the Phillies have been able to do. I mean, all of their top 5 prospects outside of Johan Rojas have come in the last 3 drafts, which is it's a big testament. I mean, all right, come on now. Let's not. The Marlins are, yes, they can't develop hitting to save their lives, but I'd argue that they are up there with the Clevelands and the Cincinnatis in like these teams churn out pitching like no other organization.
Yeah, it's not that
Yeah, but
don't
drafting it is
Mentions.
well.
Yeah,
It's
we
not that
talked about
they don't draft well. They do draft okay, but developing it is their problem, especially in terms of positional talent. But yeah, I mean the Phillies are doing it right, and Painter's ridiculous. So I just wanted to get to that really.
Yeah, and
Thanks for bringing it up.
And then sorry, Alex.
No, go.
Yeah. So like, yeah, you hit it with McGarry. Like, obviously he's a little older, so I'm not gonna rate him as like the highest pitching prospect just because like he has less time to develop. But in terms of just pure stuff, I mean, you've got Espino, you've got Painter. Like, I don't know. I think I might be with you there with McGarry. There might be not a nastier pitcher in the minor leagues. Although I just would say the command is preventing him from being an effective starter. But, we talk about Andrew Painter. We just saw his highlights on there. Both his sweeping breaking balls, like his curveball and his slider, are getting an easy 12, 13 plus inches of break every single time he throws it. This guy is unhittable when he throws those two. And it's just a matter of, can he locate it consistently enough with that command? And he's obviously showing it at AA. And like the reason, like Kevin Watt was mentioning earlier today in our private chat about, not so private anymore, about why Painter might be a little bit better is just that he's, I believe, more in the off-speed stuff and the breaking pitches, just in general, the secondaries. His ability to really, like, even though he's more of, one of my friends mentioned he's more of a fly ball pitcher and Yuri is more of a ground ball, and that could offset the two if you want to mention that. But in my opinion, like, I want to get the sure out, and that comes from swinging and misses and whips in general. And that's why I would take Andrew Painter potentially, just maybe neck and neck with Yuri. He has gone deeper into his starts than Yuri has, right? He's gone 6-7 innings in his last start against AA Colorado. I saw he had like 8 strikeouts over 7 innings. And like, that's not something Alex can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Yuri is like, he's not like, in general, he's not going that far deep. I don't think he has gone that deep in a game. You correct me if I am wrong, but like in general, he's not going 6-7 like Painter is right out of the gate. So
yeah, but they're gonna have to. That's another thing, right? They really have to balance his innings. Same with McAble, same with Griff McGarry, and that's probably a big factor for Yuri as well. They're the same age. Well, Yuri's maybe a little bit older, but they really have to manage those innings. And Painter got shut down earlier in the season because he was pitching too far into games. He was pitching too many innings, so they said take a break. And he was, probably getting a little sore because this is his outside of last year where he pitched like 4 starts with like 2 innings each in rookie ball or at the complex, I should say. Now he's come to fruition here in professional baseball, and he's reaching his inning limit probably. I would go as far as to say maybe next start is like probably his last or his second to last. Same with McAble. But I mean, the Phillies have done a really good job at valuing what they valued, which is like high spin fastballs and a good formation of a breaking ball, because I think they're just giving everybody cutters now. And if they can throw a good breaking ball, they can throw a good cutter. And that's pretty much what they've been doing with all their guys. And look, it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens with Alex McFarland, who they selected in the 4th round this year. Plus stuff all the way around. But
He's
little
from
bit.
Miami, right? The university.
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
Canes, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. If it's a similar pattern as what they found with Griff McGarry or somebody of that nature. But we'll see. I am tentatively optimistic on the Phillies development staff for the first time in quite some time. So it's going to be great. And Painter is just a glimmer of what the Phillies have coming in the next, year or, well, probably year, because I'll tell you what, Painter, Abel, and McGarry are all probably going to be up next year. If I had to make a bet, I think all of them are going to see the majors if there's room, which is a scary thing to say, because McGarry is probably coming up this year. I would say probably within the week. Maybe you'll see him in Miami. Who knows? But probably within the week or next week. Painter, Abel, they're going to take some years in AAA, or a year in AAA next year. But I mean, if down the stretch they are viewed as a better option, or somebody gets hurt or something like that, they're going to come up. Dave Dombrowski likes to be aggressive with his pitching prospects. So I worry because obviously everybody worries about young arms and inning limits and things like that. But man, they are all three of them are very, very talented. And it's a different feeling than I had with somebody like Sixto Sanchez, than I had with somebody like, and that's not to knock Sixto. I mean, obviously we know what we know now, but even back then, I don't think I was as optimistic about him as I am about these three young men. I mean, it's crazy. It's a big flip turn for the Phillies organization, and I couldn't be happier for him. So thank you for ending years of suffering.
To answer your question, Adam, Yuri has never gone into the 7th inning in his.
He was hard limited on 85 innings last year, and this year it was 110, and he got to 73. As we know that he's expected to make probably like a 2-inning start in Jupiter on Saturday, and I'm guessing that'll probably end his season. So, not much to say there. As you see this come up on your screen, Yuri slated to start on Saturday. I'm guessing it's going to be about a 2-inning rehab outing for him. Can he still get pushed up to Pensacola to end his season? Maybe in their playoff run that they have. I would doubt it, but we'll see. But I expect that Yuri start to be about 3 innings max, 2 innings probable for that Yuri Perez start on Saturday.
All right, and with that, let's get into our series preview between your Miami Marlins and division rival Philadelphia Phillies. Before we get into lineups or talk about some important players, Alex, I'm going to ask you, who are these two players? And I want you to just tell everyone who they are. Bailey Falter and Dalton Guthrie.
Okay, so
players until today.
All the Marlins fans want to hear Bailey Falter, soft tossing lefty, baby. Let's get into it. Yeah, baby, it's happening. So Bailey Falter.
I don't like Bailey Falter.
Bailey Falter is actually a very fascinating pitching prospect. Kind of seen as like one of those. He's a quadruple A all-star, right? Like he is incredible in Triple A, just absolutely unfathomably good. He's walked, I think, 7 hitters this year and last year he struck out 78 batters and walked 7 hitters in Lehigh Valley. Unbelievable. This year, probably a little bit more on the less strikeouts, maybe like a couple more walks, but in general, pinpoint command kind of guy with a really funky release. And he gets a lot of extension off the mound. So he is really deceptive. And back in 2020, when he was pitching at the complex, the whole reason that the Phillies decided to protect him from the Rule 5 draft was because he had a huge velocity bump. Not huge, but huge for him. He went from 89 to 92 to kind of sitting in the 92 to 95 range, and that was a big exclamation point for the Phillies. They were like, holy crap, if this guy can get the extension that he gets and throw as hard as that, he's going to be a really serious candidate for the rotation. And he has been. I mean, his last few starts, he's pitched very, very well. Hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in his last 4 starts. Obviously coming off of a career outing where he unfortunately had to be pulled early due to a groin tightness issue, which apparently now is feeling okay. But he's really taken a nice step forward this year. And it's to the point now where I think they value him as a 6th starter going forward. So he's kind of going to be that guy that bounces back and forth between AAA and the majors. And if they need him to, makes those spot starts. But he's very decent. And I dare say he might be more than decent. I've been covering him for a long time. And he's definitely a back of the rotation kind of arm, but if he can find that velocity bump, he's pretty good. So we'll see. He's obviously the Marlins kryptonite, but that may change. Who knows for a day, maybe they'll get some assurance versus the lefty. And then Dalton Guthrie, utility man turned kind of mostly 3 outfielder positions kind of guy, was viewed as like a first round draft talent before he got hurt in like 2017. And then, was kind of a glove first shortstop and now has morphed into this utility outfielder kind of guy. He has been really good at AAA this year. Took a huge step forward last year in terms of his hit tool. Kind of took some time off. I don't know the full story behind that. Took some time off and then came back and started hitting like a plus hit tool kind of guy. And that has carried over into this year. I mean, he hit 302 at AAA this year, slugged at like a 470 some clip, stole 20 bags. I mean, he's decent. He hits better against right-handed pitchers. So he's kind of a reverse splits kind of guy, but he's talented. I think he was a guy that they were going to add to their 40-man roster to protect him from the Rule 5 draft anyway, unfortunately. And Nick Castellanos' injury now has kind of put him into the fold early. But, one of those guys that's just going to be a utility guy, probably bounces back and forth between AAA and the majors. But he went from nothing to something. And that is, again, another testament to the Phillies organization and how they have developed, not just this year, but in prior years as well. They turned a guy that kind of was looking like he's 26 years old, looking like a organizational shortlist kind of guy, and now he's on the 40-man roster and he's probably there to stay. So he's been impressive, and I'm really excited for his debut. He deserves it. He's a really, really great guy. So excited to watch him tonight.
Kevin, finally get to hear from you. What do you see here on this lineup that intrigues you? I know you're itching out. You can't wait. What intrigues you between these two lineups?
Well, as you can see, Bryce Harper's back, so this is the first time they'll face him since the trade deadline. He's hitting cleanup at the DH, and I think all the way at the bottom, Edmundo Sosa's in there, so we'll be able to see him for the first time against the Marlins. He was one of the trade acquisitions the Phillies made. Alex already mentioned Dalton Guthrie is in there. A lot of red. You can notice that. And the Marlins have a lot of blue.
There's a lot of red over on one of those sides.
Yeah, and then you look at the Marlins side, obviously. Avi Garcia back in the lineup hitting cleanup. BA's in left field. What else is there to mention? They have Lewin hitting ninth. Well, that's interesting.
Hey, I like that.
That's interesting. And then as we noticed, Blede's in center field, and Burdick is no longer on the team, which I don't think we've mentioned that today, but yeah, there's Avi Garcia.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's a good swing. I like it.
Is that Jupiter Hammerhead's legend, Avi Garcia?
That is.
Wow, king.
Ooh, look at this
Bryce Harper's red sheet looks just like Austin Riley's, just insanely red, like very.
Austin Riley.
There you go.
That makes me so. We can all resonate here. Austin Riley being as good as he is, I was so convinced that he was. I thought his swing and miss rates were not going to be sustainable in the major leagues. But that Braves voodoo magic strikes again, and now he's probably the. If Paul Goldschmidt didn't exist, Austin Riley was probably going to win MVP this year, and had, I guess, arguably a case last year. There was no contest last year, but it arguably had a case according to Braves fans last year. And so, and Nolan Arenado also exists. That's true. But it is unfortunate that he is considered up in that echelon now that somebody like Bryce Harper or somebody like Paul Goldschmidt is. But still, a lot of red for those guys. A lot of red. They seem to do everything pretty well.
And the thing with Riley, defensively, he's taking such a huge step forward too, which is just like seriously. Like I remember him being bad at the Marlins.
That's wash.
He's Brooks Robinson all of a sudden, and
it's the Ron Washington effect, right?
Speaking of players who are playing like legends, I think I just have to mention he's playing for the Giants. It's the reincarnation of Barry Bonds.
Lewis Brinson, baby,
is dominating so far.
Dude, what happened to this guy?
1.3 OPS, 364 average, 2 home runs, 3 RBIs. He is
Speaking of Barry Bonds, Bryson Stott hit one into McCovey Cove.
I saw that, bro.
No bounce, just straight into McCovey Cove.
Straight away in the middle.
My guy Farhan completely fixed Lewis Brinson. He resurrected his career. Well, not really him. He was with the Astros for the most of the year, right?
Yep.
Don't
worry, guys. It's not happening. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think it's more about Andrew Heaney than it does about
Marlins legends.
I think you're completely right.
Yeah, I don't. And then the other one he hit was over the wall.
Lewis was having a great season in AAA.
He always has a great season in AAA. He's the best hitter in Major League Baseball and minor league baseball.
No, I think the first one was off of it was in garbage time versus the Phillies, so I don't think it counts. So you guys are clear. Don't worry about it.
Right.
Well, maybe not.
Oh
boy. Maybe not Brinson himself, but like this build that we've seen from former Marlins as a whole this season, hitters as a whole, you can talk about Stone Garrett.
I was
There's
about to say.
I'll bring him up continuously because he killed it in AAA. He hit 30 home runs in AAA, and now he's up in Major League Baseball, and he's hitting as well. And now you see Brinson too. So
I still think
So no.
I think it's the same thing for like somebody like Derek Hall with the Phillies, right? Like Derek Hall came up absolutely mashed because they put him in the right situations, right? They put him in situations that behooved his skill set. And he was only here for a cup of coffee, right? And guys don't really have time to figure you out when you're here for, 30 or so games. But now Derek has gone back to AAA and he's had maybe 3 hits. I mean, he's struggling right now. So, but
it's the opposite. It's the opposite, Alex, with Marlins players is that they have their chance at AAA and they don't perform. And Lewis Brinson had his chance, many chances in Major League Baseball, didn't perform. I'm not going to say because he hit 2 home runs in a game that he is a Hall of Famer. Absolutely not. But this guy, again, it's another guy that I followed in high school. He was here in Coral Springs, at Coral Springs High School. There was never any doubt that this guy was going to be a Major League Baseball player. There was never one doubt. And he went to the Marlins and things fell apart. And now he's somewhere else and things are going so far. I mean, with Houston, they were whatever, but now with the Giants, they're going okay. So I don't know. It's just, is it a problem overall with this system? And the answer that I come to myself with that question, and many others do as well, is yes, it's a problem with this system with developing offensive talent, and they can't get the most out of it. Like I said, and again, I'm not saying that Lewis Brinson is a starting outfielder in any major league organization, but is he useful? Yes, absolutely. So that's what the Giants hope to get out of him. That's what the where the fuck is Stone Garrett? Shit, I forget. With
Arizona.
He's on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Is that what the Diamondbacks hope to get out of Stone Garrett? Yes. So it's Josh Naylor is another one that's on the Cleveland Guardians. That's another guy you can point to and say this thing. So
I forgot he was a Marlin.
Austin Nola, there's a million, but I think with Brinson though, he was pretty bad in the majors with Milwaukee too. So I don't think you can blame the Marlins too much. He was pretty bad. I was surprised to see him the headliner. But
do me a favor and DFA Lewin Diaz real quick. Just do me that favor. Let me.
Why are you not happy with Hoskins?
Look, Rhys Hoskins is eligible for free agency in 2024. So I'm ready for future Phillies first baseman Lewin Diaz.
You know what? In that ballpark, I would bank on 20 home runs.
Oh, he's gonna be a Yankee in no time. He's gonna be a Yankee in no time.
And
we have Troy Jones.
Obviously, he's gonna be able to see the
Speaking
defense.
of trades,
Josh
I wanted to ask
Naylor,
Alex Carr really quick.
Alex,
Go ahead, Alex.
Just really quick, Alex. Josh Naylor and Stone Garrett are connected forever through one circumstance. I don't know if you know what that is, but they're interconnected for all time. Anyways, go ahead, Danny. Sorry.
No, that's right. I wanted to ask Alex Carr. We're talking about trades. I want, now that the time has passed, I want to get his thoughts on the trade deadline moves. Phillies were very active in the trade deadline. I feel like, now that the season's ending, it's fair to at least grade it or at least get the thoughts and were these positive trades? Did they bring what the Phillies wanted to, what they were looking for? And it's Brendan Marsh, David Robertson, and Noah Syndergaard. 3, starters, players that they were hoping for. Alex, just what came out of this trade for the Phillies, and was it positive, any of the 3?
Yeah, I think looking back on it, it's a little hard to grade right now, just given the Brandon Marsh got hurt for quite some time and had to sit for a little bit. Hasn't exactly been starting every day, just given how many left-handed pitchers the Phillies have been facing. And at the same time, Noah Syndergaard, obviously is very much in progress. You kind of still see his pitch usage kind of fluctuating still a little bit. And that's been an interesting thing to watch. He's been hittable, but he's also, been very much working on his stuff. They've added a cutter for him. He's throwing his sinker primarily. So that's been really interesting to watch. But looking back on it, just given the prices that they paid, personally, I'm thrilled with it. I think that Mickey Moniak, Yadiel Sanchez was a small price to pay for Noah Syndergaard. And if you clump the Brandon Marsh and Noah Syndergaard trades together and you look at it as Brandon Marsh and Noah Syndergaard for Mickey Moniak, Yadiel Sanchez and Logan O'Hoppe, I think you take that trade 10 out of 10 times still today. I mean, Brandon Marsh, obviously, you guys know it well, plus center fielder, or has the potential to be. And I honestly really love the changes the Phillies have made to his swing. It looks really great. Whether it produces results, who knows? But it looks very nice. It's pleasing to watch. So, he's been solid for the Phillies thus far, and he's hit really well. And then as for Noah Syndergaard, I mean, he's been exactly what they wanted him to be. He's eating innings, right? Like he's giving them a fourth to fifth starter level of production, and that's what they needed. They needed to give some of their guys a break, and that's what they've done. David Robertson, on the other hand, I mean, I'm honestly not too sure how Ben Brown has been doing in Chicago. Last I checked, he was 2 starts in. Like he had 1 really bad start, 1 really good start. But I mean, David Robertson's been amazing. He is making up for 2019 and then some. Even though he has definitely he's blown a save or two. But
yesterday,
then again, yeah. Well, he was asked to go 2 innings, which is just not a good idea. The first inning was already a little sketchy, and then the second inning he got 2 really quick outs, both strikeouts, I believe, and then Wilmer Flores just took him for a liner, which everybody should have known was coming. Wilmer Flores is the greatest right-handed hitter against right-handed pitching of all time. But it's really interesting, or I should say the greatest walk-off hitter against right-handed pitchers as a right-handed hitter of all time. But it's been really great to watch him. He's throwing better than he ever has. And that I think is going to really do well for him when he heads to free agency. I'm really happy for him. And obviously, given him and the Phillies past, it's been really, really nice to kind of get that redemption arc from him. So in all, I think the Phillies had to trade who they had to trade anyway, because those guys were needed to go on the 40-man roster in the end. They maximized the value for the 2 of them. I think that's, again, a key point. Both came from depth that they have organizationally. Like you think about Ben Brown was blocked by Painter, Abel, McGarry, right? Like that's just a fact. So they went out and they acquired something that they needed right now. O'Hoppe blocked by, Stubbs, Marchand, Real Muto, Donnie Sands now. I mean, the list goes on. It just wasn't going to happen. So, I mean, it really does feel like they did what they haven't done in the past, which is maximize value on some guys that they really had to trade at peak value. You kind of see that in the past with Spencer Howard. You see that in the past with Luis Garcia, who they just DFA'd and was picked up by the Tigers. We're talking about he's a former top prospect in the organization, a guy that was in 2018 getting Francisco Lindor comparisons, like absolutely crazy. So, it's something that they haven't done in the past. Adonis Medina, that crazy trade back in 2018 that could have involved Adonis Medina, headlined by Adonis Medina, that was going to get them Manny Machado at the deadline, right? Like crazy stuff. So it's something that they haven't done before, and I'm happy now that they did make those trades and maximize value on some guys that frankly had to be traded.
Yeah. You wanted to mention something, Adam?
So I was gonna say about that trade, that one, like you mentioned, like the Brandon Marsh trade for the Logan O'Hoppe trade was, for me, it's kind of weird. It's for me, you can never have a surplus of enough catching or.
Oh yes, you can. Oh yes, you can.
you can never have enough pitching, and especially with O'Hoppe, I would take O'Hoppe over the other guys, not Bro, but if he's next in line if you ever leave. And if you see O'Hoppe is absolutely shredding the baseball in AA right now.
The PCL does some crazy things to hitters, I will say.
No, he's in AA. He just now got to AAA.
Yeah,
he hasn't played in AAA yet.
Oh, that's right. He's in AA.
He's in AA. He was at Reading, and now he's in, I don't know I think it's Inland.
Trash Pandas, yeah.
Rocket City Trash Pandas. I love that name. But
you know what time it is? What time it is? It's prediction time, right?
Bro, let me
Kevin.
It's prediction time. You have 5 minutes.
No. So, just to wrap it up in general, just with O'Hoppe, it was interesting. And Brandon Marsh, that disciplined, the 3% strike walk rate compared to that 36% K rate with Phillies. I don't know. I like O'Hoppe a lot.
I think as somebody who has gotten to watch Logan a lot, I think that he is going to inevitably be the leader of that Angels clubhouse. I think he is an amazing person. That hurt. I think he's an amazing person. I think he is an amazing guy that is going to anchor a rotation. I don't think he's the hitter that a lot of people think that he is. So I think that's going to be interesting to watch unfold. I think that's going to be really, really fun. And for me, he was blocked by every person imaginable under the sun by the Phillies. So, it had to be done, in my opinion, and they filled a position of need.
Yeah, and with that, I think it's time for our favorite time of the stream. Eli?
This is prediction time.
It's time.
Whose voice is that?
This
My voice.
is
it really?
prediction time.
That's you? What a god! You can do that like you do the
Yeah,
EA
you didn't know who that was.
intro.
Like, it's,
We can play one more time for you to hear it.
This is prediction time.
It's time.
To the game.
Yeah, you can do that EA Sports intro, man. Shit.
Now, prediction time. Kevin, you're going to lead us off, and we're going to have a new format for predictions. A whole layout for you.
Ooh.
Oh, I don't like this.
Even
Too much
this.
FaceTime.
You
Oh,
can
no.
give you that FaceTime.
So it's Luzardo, Edward, and Sandy, right? Yeah. All right, Marlins take 2 out of 3.
Edward, bro.
Edward's not pitching? Oh, it's Trevor. I'm sorry. Marlins take 2 out of 3. Sandy's the MVP.
Whoa.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
bold.
Yeah, Miami's. I like
right.
Miami's pitching a lot more than this.
Next
this
up to
series.
that, Mr. Adam.
I'm gonna go Phillies take 2 out of 3, and my MVP is going to be. I'm gonna go off the cut and go Gene Segura here.
That's a good
All
one.
right. Next up, Isaac.
Oh, hi. I'm gonna say the Phillies win 2 out of 3. It's hard to say sweep just because Sandy's pitching. And I'll say the MVP only because Trevor Rogers is pitching. Reese Hoskins will be the MVP.
Alex Carver, if we could put that as just the layout.
Philly sweep, Alec Baum.
Boom.
Boom.
Capital.
All right. Eli, our fearless leader.
Adam took my stuff. I'm going with Adam. Marlins win just 1 out of 3, and MVP Gene Segura.
Whoa.
Hey, some Gene love.
Yeah.
And our guest, Mr.
Hello.
Alex Carr.
I kind of lied in the beginning of the show. I actually think the Phillies will win the series. I think they'll win 2 out of 3. I'm not sure if Sandy Day is the one they're going to lose, though. Just because of given recent things, and Kyle Gibson, as we've said here before, is the Marlins' daddy. So I think he'll look to bounce back from a dreadful start. But I think it's 2 out of 3, and I think the series MVP. I'm going to go ahead and give it to. It's a hard one, but I think I'm going to go ahead and give it to Bryce Harper. I think this is the series where Bryce Harper kind of starts to figure it out. Some tough lefties he's facing, but that hasn't stopped him before.
Oh, I had no idea he was back.
And
Damn.
yours truly, I'm going to have the Marlins taking 1 game. I think they take the Sandy game, and they lose the other 2. And my MVP, Marlins legend, JT Realmuto.
Yeah.
I
been
think the
so good
Marlins'
lately.
dominance of the Phillies is over ever since that 3-game sweep that Philly had in Miami before the All-Star break. Since then, I just don't feel confident facing the Phillies anymore. I did.
You know what's funny? I kind of feel like the Phillies have so many Marlins killers now, and I'm less scared of the Philly killers on the Marlins. And I think that's just because Miguel Rojas is having such a bad year. But I'm honestly not as terrified either, which is saying something because
Anthony Dominguez is a killer now. Everyone's a killer on that team.
Apparently,
Miguel Rojas used to Snickers in the worst way possible. Let's just leave it at that.
Oh, and I forgot, Grant has Philly sweep, Kyle Schwarber MVP. So I'm guessing he has Kyle Schwarber going 4 for 4 against Sandy, I guess.
Dude, I need to sweep this. Jeez.
Yeah, it's heated up there between Eli and I.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that maybe down the stretch you always put me first with the predictions just so I can't copy anybody strategically. I don't know if you trust me or not.
I came in
think
the
about
last
that.
2 weeks.
I trust Eli.
Bella
I
took my
don't
predictions.
think he's someone to lie.
Now, I do just I want to point out, if you look at our predictions, they are a complete reversal of what happened last time I was on the show.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens. But if
Wait.
things go the Marlins' way this time,
Wait.
Ooh.
Kevin predicted the Marlins will win the series.
I think they will.
Sorry.
Their pitching is a lot better than Phillies. So
You look hazy.
me, I'm a little sick.
A little hazy with that
I
prediction.
wanted to ask Alex Carr something really quick before we go. Oh,
There
there we
it is.
go. My beautiful smile. Grant
what was I
21.
doing?
That
What was I
was
doing?
the start of the
Jeez.
Marlins going 12-33. This picture started off a 12-33 run.
Dude, that was like the most anticipated weekend and like throughout the season. Max Meyer was starting, Trevor Rogers,
Yep.
bobblehead, if anyone cared. Sandy was pitching against the Phillies, and then Alex
Jeez,
Carr.
Alex, your bicep looked big in that pick, bro.
Oh, all right. Before we go, Alex Carr, I want to get a quick yes or no before we go. Albert Pujols, does he get 700?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
He better. I hope so. I mean, Albert's one of my favorite players of all time. I love him. I love Miguel Cabrera. Two of my favorites of all time to ever do it. So glad Miggy got 3K. Really hoping Albert gets 700. Really hoping.
It's gonna be
All
tough.
right. Well, that does it for everyone here. Make sure you watch this series for myself, Daniel, for Eli, Isaac, Kevin, Adam, Alex Carver, Alex Carr. This has been Fish Stripes Live. Always go fish.
We gotta end it off right. We gotta